Hey, so we switched roles. Usually, Priji is the one, Pastor Priji is the one who interviews me and asks me questions and puts me on the spot. So I thought I should show him back the same favor of putting him on the spot this time. And this man also has an incredible testimony. Um, from my end, the first time I met him, I remember meeting him in a coffee shop. That was after the conference in Ambernath.
Yep.
So he invited me for a conference in his city. How old were you at that time?
21?
21.
Yes.
Did a huge conference, a huge. It was big.
It was big, yeah.
You guys were crazy to go out and do such a big stuff.
We had like some 5,000 rupees in our hands, and we organized a conference that would cost us about 2 lakhs.
Oof. Now, how much is that in dollars? 5,000 rupees is
It's like $100.
$100, and 2 lakhs would be.
Over $4,000.
Yeah. So that was a huge step of faith for you guys.
Yeah.
And God honored that meeting.
Yes. We saw some crazy miracles, even in terms of finance. I don't know if you remember this. We came and asked you to pray for the finance before the meeting. And I still remember the prayer that he prayed. He said, I command the economic powers of Ambernath to open up over this meeting, and from that day we saw a complete breakthrough, and every penny was paid, and we had a beautiful meeting.
Awesome.
So many awesome testimonies from that meeting.
I remember it was one of the highlights of that time.
Yeah.
And then he came down to my city, Bangalore.
Yeah, for tentative meeting.
Yeah. And then you were working there at.
Yes. Then I moved to Bangalore completely.
Because God put in your heart to go start a church. And now this is where it got interesting. So I meet him at a coffee shop. He's been an organizer for one of our meetings. So I'm sitting there, just being polite, catching up with this young man. And then I hear his vision and his passion, and I'm like, what are you doing in a company, wasting your time to the world when you could be serving the Lord full time? And I still remember at that time saying, you know what, this guy has to be released from this job. And that was my crazy step of faith, because I had never done something like that before. I said, you know what, come and work for me. I will pay you so you don't have to sit in the office, so you can go do whatever you want. And that's how we officially
started working together.
And he was kind. He said, you know what, there's no way that I cannot do something in return, so I will work with Revive Nations. And I was all the more happy to be blessed with somebody like you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about your story. Tell us your background of how you came to the Lord in the initial days of your life.
I came to the Lord in a Bible study. That was when my heart changed from the inside. But for me, it was a long process from the time that I got saved till God had to actually take the junk from inside of me. I was in the ways of the world from very child. From the time I was in my 5th, 6th standard, I was into gang fights and abuse and a lot of stuff, which I did say no to it as soon as I got saved, but it took a little while longer for me to completely get it out of my life. But from my childhood days, every prophet who would come to my church, because I used to go to a church, they would come and prophesy.
And that's something that the Western church may not understand. We're blessed with so many prophets in the house
in India
that know stuff that we do behind that doors.
They'll just come and prophesy, hey, you know what? Doesn't matter where you are right now, what you're doing right now. One day God is going to bring you into the ministry and you will be serving God full time.
Amazing.
So I just knew from the childhood days that I will be in the ministry one day or the other. It was just a matter of time. And then someone, because there was nobody to take up a particular ministry position, I came in there and I started ministering. I used to do ministry in villages, and from there I started doing ministry among young people, and then into church. Then That's the point at which I moved to Bangalore, and then an entire. I still remember the day that I asked you to mentor me. Yeah, I remember the question you asked me. What do you want me to do for you? Do you want me to clap for you and celebrate you and tell you what you're doing wrong, right, or do you really want me to correct you and literally make life hard for you? I said, do whatever it takes. Just I need some direction in my life.
I must have said something like that.
I need some direction in my life. Please do whatever it takes. I really have to. That was the complete shift, changing point in my life where I started having a clear direction to what I'm doing.
That one thing that I must give in, you've been one of the most humble servants I've come across. I don't know how you do it, because you have so much access into the ministry. You've literally seen. You'll probably be one of the closest persons that know me inside out. You carry that humble spirit, and you seem to carry yourself with such fear of God and such love and such humility and such servant attitude, which is incredible. So tell us a little about where that comes from, because I've seen your life and said, man, I want to be as humble as he is. Where does it come? Is it natural? Is that something that you had to pick up?
I think I would definitely give credit to my parents for that, because no matter what I did, it might not be in a good way, but in a you've had the same experience, right? My mom and dad, they would always come and tell me, hey, don't boast, don't be arrogant, don't become too proud. Every time I would win a prize or anything, they would keep coming back and saying, hey, this is the reason why so many men of God have fallen. This is the reason why. So there's one thing that they taught me right from my childhood days. It's to just stay humble, and they would keep telling me, becoming big is not wrong, but how you become big is by staying humble. They used to tell me, if you stay humble under the mighty hand of God, He will lift you up. That is the way to become big. Don't try to exalt yourself. You just remain humble, and God will.
Absolutely, and I've seen that God do that with you. Another area of your life that inspires me is your giving. And I've seen it grow. I've seen the Lord nurture it, and year by year when I see you, you seem to step it up and push the envelope in giving. You've been a man of faith. You've just gone into cities, nations with no money, walked into places, invested. You give crazy. I've had to literally hold you back from not just throwing everything out. What's the story behind it?
I think everything that I have gotten it free. So it doesn't take a lot for me to give it away. I think it's at times the fact that I deserve this, that this is my money, or this is mine, that stops people from giving. We've seen this in our family, that the more we have said this is not ours, we're doing this for God. Whatever we are, our home, our vehicle, our
I see that.
Everything
I
is
don't
for
think
God.
there is a line. Everything that is yours belongs to the Lord, and everything that is yours belongs to the ministry.
So because we've lived like that, it comes very easy. It comes very easy to.
So how about your wife? Does she, when she got married to you, when she sees this side of you, how did that happen?
So for her, it took a little while to get adjusted to my lifestyle. Also, in both ways, not just in giving, but also in receiving, because she was somebody who had her own self-respect and wouldn't want anybody to come and give when she would receive. She wanted to work and earn her, want to feel respected, that
absolutely.
Okay, fine, I'm working and getting my own wages.
Not depending on anybody.
Not depending on anybody else's favor. So it took a little while for her to get adjusted. When I used to tell her stories of how God would provide, she would be like, no way that can happen. But when she started seeing real examples of how God would just provide from different ways and in absolutely...
Give us an example of the divine providence of...
I still remember this was just a few months after marriage, and my mom was coming to stay with us. So I was like, okay, when mom comes, we have to buy food, and if we buy food, if we don't have a fridge, it'll get spoiled. We don't know where to buy and keep our stuff in. We just like that we said, oh man, I wish we had a fridge, and then suddenly I got a call the very next day from someone, and he asked me to come to a place. I said, okay, he might be calling us to have food, and we went to have food, and literally we had 20 rupees in our wallet, exactly 20 rupees. No money in the bank account, no money in our wallets. We had exactly 20 rupees. We went to that place and we walked out with a fridge, for the home. And we'd not even dreamt, we didn't even have enough money to buy food to keep in the fridge. We just said it and God honored that wish, and God made it happen.
And
so
all
we've
these
seen
years of you giving and giving and giving and giving, there's still no need.
Definitely, never. I cannot say, I'm not saying that we've not gone through difficult times. There has been times when we've gone through difficult times. Sometimes God would ask us to give more. Sometimes God would tell us to, be wise in some area of our personal spending. But never have we come to a place where God has said, hey, you're giving too much. Because that's one thing we've never regretted. Just the other week, I'm seeing how Rashmi has also picked up the same, and
Absolutely.
we had our food provisions for an entire year, and I was like, okay, this is something that we need for our home. We have so many people coming over,
like rice and all that.
groceries and
Okay.
all those things, and she's like, no, I think they need it more than us, and she loaded everything into the car, and I'm like, be a little,
Slow,
are
a
you
little
being
slow.
emotional? Are you, I'm trying to discourage her, but she just loaded everything into the car, and she's like, let's go. And I think I like the fact that she also
Catches
has
that.
caught the
Praise
same heart, and
Praise God. Thank God for supporting wives.
Yeah.
And I know from my personal life that that Tini coming by my side
it's a big help. It's a big support.
in giving especially.
Yeah.
Otherwise, imagine they freaking out
Right,
when they
right.
see the way we give.
Yeah.
Praise God. There are so many stories that we can cover, but before we close, I want to hear what God is doing with your church plant. I know that you've planted your 4th church now.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about your heart for church planting.
It was a very. I was very young when God first gave me the word from Matthew 28, 19 and 20, where God said, go into all the world, make disciples, teach them, and baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and that's how the passion for church planting developed in my heart, to disciple people, so that's how when I came to Bangalore, I knew for a fact that the church will start one day or the other. We started the church there, and then the second service started, then the church in Mumbai happened, and then the one in Kenya. I've been hoping, I've been dreaming that there'll come a day when God will allow us to go to every state in India where we will be able to. Our hope, our desire is not to build a big church. Our hope is to build a center from where we can encourage people from other churches. There are people in our church that we are mentoring, and we are teaching, we are helping, who are actually attending other churches. They are not coming for Sunday services in our church. We're just mentoring and blessing them to go back and be a blessing in their own respective churches. So we've been hoping that we'll be a church, and we will create centers like this all over the country where
So
we
you have
will
3 in
revival.
India?
Yeah, 3 in India.
And 1 in Kenya.
1 in Kenya.
How did the Kenya happen, if you can quickly share?
Kenya happened because there was someone who was following us through online, and she kept telling us, hey, we want to be part of what you guys are doing, and we have the same vision of revival. Can we connect? So when we went to Kenya for another meeting, she came all the way with her pastors and team all the way to the other side, and she saw the ministry, and then that's how the
Amazing.
whole thing took off in Kenya as well. And that church has been growing too on a very regular basis. I've been getting updates that God's been doing.
And you've been a great help to me personally and Revive Nations with your administrative side. What is your passion with Revive Nations?
I believe that the calling on Revive Nations is is so big, so huge, and the reason I work with you and with the entire team is because I believe in the calling that Aaron has in seeing revival from individual to nations, right? So I've been dreaming that one day the whatever we see today is very very small. What God is about to do is huge. It's beyond what we have ever dreamt of. So that is what inspires me to continue pressing on with the team, with the ministry, seeing that come to pass, whatever it takes.
One advice to a believer: how can they be a better believer in a church?
Better believer in the church, just be consistent.
Consistent.
That's a pastor doesn't necessarily always struggle with people who have a character problem. A pastor has a struggle with somebody who is not consistently there in church. As long as you're there every Sunday, or as long as you're going back to the
What
church.
What happens when somebody is not consistent?
It's just that the pastor will not have access to you. It's simple, because as long as the
You're not
pastor
fed.
doesn't have, you're not fed. He doesn't know what is happening in your life. As long as you're coming back, God will give enough wisdom to the pastor. One of the things that God has been doing in our church is every time people come into a church, God would just open up their lives to us. Even without them telling it to us, we will just know what is going on in their lives.
Their accountability opens up a special grace in our lives to be able to speak into them and release them into their destiny.
Exactly. That happens when they come in. It's a different thing for me to pursue new souls, or when they are not yet saved, to pursue them. But if you are a believer already, you come to the church regularly, day in and day out, week after week, and you will see how the leaders in the church are able to minister to you.
I don't want to stop here. So one last question. What is one advice for the pastors that are watching us?
You pastors, I think the greatest thing that I can tell pastors is to walk with God. I have personally seen this in my life, that when I stop walking with God, or when I get distracted, even with ministry sometimes, when I get distracted, when I take a break from working with God, so I can, finish my work, even family or routines, or any time that happens, I have seen that consecutively reflects in what I'm able to give to the church. Then automatically I tend to lean on my experience. I tend to lean on my, previous sermons and previous revelations. But even when I'm walking with God, it might be the same old revelation, but when it's shared, it actually brings life. So walking with God is something that a pastor cannot miss, no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
Very important.
I am so happy we did this interview, and so proud to know him as my spiritual son and my brother in the gospel and my friend. And
I'm blessed to have you as my father in the Lord, and a great friend. And I know for a fact that I can call him up and share anything with him, and yet he will not fire me from Revive Nations.
You know what? I want you to head to pastorpriji.com. I'm going to try to get Robin to put that on the screen. Visit pastorpriji.com. This is a good ministry for you to sow into. It is a good ministry for you to support, and I believe that you will be blessed. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Don't forget to share it with somebody. Leave your comments below. Don't be lazy. Get to that. Let us know how you've been blessed. Thank you. Bye-bye. Don't forget to subscribe.